What if I told you that the most powerful brain repair tool you have access to doesn't require a doctor's prescription, an expensive supplement, or a clinical appointment, and that you're probably sabotaging it every single night without even knowing it? What if I told you that what you eat in the 2 hours before bed is either silently accelerating your cognitive decline or actively rebuilding your memory, and that Mark Hyman has seen this play out in ways that will completely change how you think about aging? Here's what most people over 60 are getting completely wrong. They think memory loss, brain fog, and cognitive decline are simply an inevitable natural consequence of getting older, something you just accept and manage. But the emerging science is telling us something very different. What we're now understanding is that the aging brain is not a broken machine. It is a machine that is being starved of the right signals, the right nutrients, and the right environment to repair itself. And the window right before sleep, when your brain is preparing to do its most important housekeeping, is perhaps the most strategically underutilized window in all of health. Tonight, we're going to talk about 3 specific fruits, not exotic superfoods you can't find or afford, not complicated protocols, 3 accessible, scientifically validated fruits that, when eaten at the right time and in the right way, can do something remarkable. They can feed your brain exactly what it needs to clear toxic debris, rebuild damaged neurons, boost the neurochemicals responsible for memory, and protect the architecture of your mind from the erosion that most people simply assume is unavoidable. And before you think this is just another feel-good wellness video, I want to be clear. We are going to walk through the actual physiology. We're going to talk about mitochondria, about neurotrophic factors, about melatonin precursors, about neuroinflammation. We're going to look at peer-reviewed research published in journals like Alzheimer's and Dementia, Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience, and the journal Neurology, because your brain deserves more than vague health advice. It deserves real science delivered in a way you can actually act on. Now, why does this matter so much specifically after 60? Here's what's really going on inside your body as you age. Around the time you cross 60, several critical systems begin to shift simultaneously. Your brain's ability to produce BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is essentially your brain's growth hormone, the molecule responsible for building new neural connections and keeping existing neurons alive, starts to decline. Your glymphatic system, the brain's dedicated waste clearance mechanism that operates almost exclusively during deep sleep, becomes less efficient. Your gut microbiome, which directly communicates with your brain through what scientists call the gut-brain axis, starts to shift in ways that reduce the production of key neurochemicals. And your mitochondria, the tiny power plants inside every one of your brain cells, begin accumulating damage faster than your brain can clean them up. Now, here's why what you eat before bed matters so specifically. The glymphatic system, your brain's night shift cleaning crew, is most active during the first few hours of deep sleep. This system literally flushes cerebrospinal fluid through the spaces between brain cells, sweeping out amyloid plaques, tau proteins, and other metabolic waste products that, if left to accumulate, are directly linked to Alzheimer's disease and accelerated cognitive decline. If you go to bed having consumed something that disrupts the system, a spike in blood sugar, inflammatory compounds, alcohol, you compromise the entire night's repair cycle. But if you go to bed having given your brain the specific building blocks it needs to activate this process, you amplify it. So the question isn't just what to eat, it's what to eat and when. And the science is pointing clearly to a window of approximately 1 to 2 hours before sleep as the optimal time to deliver these neuroprotective compounds. Let me walk you through all 6 of the key scientific insights driving this tonight. And then we're going to go deep on each of the 3 fruits, exactly what they do, how they do it, and how to use them. Here are the 6 insights we're covering. 1, why the aging brain's mitochondria hold the key to memory repair and how one fruit compound directly targets this at the cellular level. 2, how neuroinflammation, the silent fire burning inside your brain, is the root cause of cognitive decline, not aging itself. 3, why your brain's BDNF, your neural growth factor, drops after 60 and what eating the right anthocyanins can do to reverse that. 4, the serotonin-melatonin cascade that happens during sleep and why one specific fruit is a pharmacological goldmine for this pathway. 5, how the gut-brain axis is a two-way highway and how certain fruit polyphenols reshape your gut bacteria to produce brain-healing metabolites overnight. And 6, why deep slow-wave sleep is the single most undervalued brain repair tool you have and exactly how to use food to access it. Let's begin. Before we go any further, I want to take a moment to connect with our community. If you're new here, welcome to the BioBytes YouTube channel, where we break down health science into actionable strategies you can use today. We are building an incredible global community of health-conscious individuals, and we would genuinely love for you to be part of it. Hit that subscribe button right now and click the bell icon so you never miss our evidence-based content. And I'm genuinely curious, where in the world are you watching this from? Drop your country or city in the comments below. We have viewers spanning 6 continents, and seeing our international community grow is incredibly inspiring. Your engagement keeps us motivated to research and create content that truly serves you. Now, let's get into the science. The first fruit we need to talk about is pomegranate, and as in the shiwi kaimandedui chui tea. And I want to explain this one carefully because what's happening inside this fruit at a biochemical level is genuinely extraordinary. And it starts not in your mouth, but in your gut. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your brain cells are like factories. Inside every factory, there are thousands of tiny power generators called mitochondria. These mitochondria produce the energy your neurons need to fire signals, consolidate memories, and think clearly. Now, as you age, some of these power generators become damaged. They start malfunctioning. They produce toxic byproducts instead of clean energy. And here's the critical problem. Your brain has a natural process for clearing out these damaged mitochondria. It's called mitophagy. Think of it as the brain's quality control system. When mitophagy works, damaged power generators get identified, removed, and replaced. When mitophagy fails, they pile up, release inflammatory signals, and begin to interfere with the functioning of the entire factory. This is one of the central mechanisms driving Alzheimer's disease and age-related cognitive decline. Now, this is where pomegranate becomes remarkable. Pomegranates contain complex polyphenolic compounds called L-glutanins and ellagic acid. When these compounds reach your gut, certain species of beneficial bacteria convert them into a metabolite called urolithin A. And urolithin A is, based on current research, one of the most potent natural activators of mitophagy discovered to date. A landmark study published in 2024 in the journal Alzheimer's and Dementia by researchers from the University of Copenhagen working in collaboration with the National Institute on Aging used multiple Alzheimer's mouse models and found that urolithin A improved learning and memory, reduced neuroinflammation, and actively restored the brain's mitophagy process and lysosomal function. The researchers found that urolithin A removes damaged, weakened mitochondria from the brain with an effectiveness comparable to NAD supplements, which are widely considered among the most powerful neuroprotective compounds in modern longevity medicine. Think about that for a moment. A compound derived from a fruit produced naturally by your gut bacteria performing at the level of one of the most expensive supplements on the market. A separate 2024 paper published in the journal Nutrients further confirmed that urolithin A activates the longevity gene SIRT1, which is involved not only in mitophagy but in DNA repair, inflammation control, and cellular longevity across multiple organ systems, including the brain. Here's what's really going on inside your body when you eat pomegranate in the evening. The L-glutanins travel through your digestive system to the colon, where your gut bacteria, particularly those in the Gordonobacter and Helicobacter genera, convert them into urolithin A. This conversion takes several hours, meaning that when you eat pomegranate 1 to 2 hours before bed, the urolithin A production peaks roughly during the early hours of sleep, exactly when your glymphatic system is most active and your brain is doing its deepest cellular housekeeping. You are essentially timing your food to synchronize with your brain's own repair cycle. Now, here's the practical protocol. Aim for roughly half to a whole pomegranate worth of arils, that's the seed pods, in the evening. If pomegranate isn't accessible or practical, a pure pomegranate juice with no added sugar, roughly 4 to 6 Oz, is a viable alternative. Pair it with a small amount of healthy fat, a few walnuts, a tablespoon of olive oil on a small salad, because the polyphenols in pomegranate are better absorbed in the presence of fat. And if you have gut dysbiosis, meaning your gut bacteria are imbalanced, you may need to spend several weeks supporting your microbiome before you get the full conversion to urolithin A. This is why prebiotic fiber, fermented foods, and reducing ultra-processed food intake are all part of the bigger picture of brain health. The second fruit is blueberries. And while blueberries have been talked about in wellness circles for years, I want to get past the surface level conversation and go deep into the neuroscience, because what these tiny berries do to your aging brain is more targeted and more powerful than most people realize. The key compounds in blueberries are their anthocyanins, particularly cyanidin and delphinidin, which belong to a class of phytonutrients called flavonoids. Now, flavonoids have a unique ability that most other dietary compounds don't. They can cross the blood-brain barrier. That's the protective membrane that surrounds your brain and filters what gets in. Most things don't make it through. Flavonoids do. And once they're inside the brain, they go to work in several coordinated ways. What the research shows is this. A 2021 study published in Neurology, one of the most respected medical journals in the world, published by the American Academy of Neurology, analyzed the dietary patterns of tens of thousands of men and women over many years and found that flavonoids, particularly the anthocyanins found in blueberries, blackberries, and cherries, were associated with a 24% reduction in risk of cognitive decline. The study noted that as little as half a serving per day of anthocyanin-rich foods produce measurable benefits in brain age. But the deeper mechanism is what I really want you to understand. Blueberry anthocyanins directly upregulate BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as the brain's fertilizer. It promotes the growth of new neurons, strengthens existing neural connections, and protects brain cells from dying. Multiple preclinical studies have shown that blueberry supplementation elevates hippocampal levels of BDNF. And the hippocampus, crucially, is the brain region most responsible for memory formation and most vulnerable to Alzheimer's-related damage. A 2023 clinical study published in Frontiers in Psychology found that polyphenol-rich blueberry and grape extract produced significant improvements in episodic memory and cognitive function in older adults with mild cognitive impairment. And the researchers linked these improvements to the upregulation of BDNF and neuronal signaling proteins, including CREB, the camp response element binding protein, which is directly involved in the consolidation of short-term memories into long-term ones. A 6-month randomized controlled trial published in 2022 in Nutritional Neuroscience found that wild blueberry consumption improved information processing speed in older adults with mild cognitive decline. A separate study from the University of Cincinnati found that blueberry supplementation in middle-aged adults with insulin resistance and subjective cognitive decline, a high-risk group for future dementia, produced measurable improvements in memory interference and lexical access. The research team observed that blueberries appeared to improve peripheral mitochondrial function as well, reinforcing the connection between metabolic health, mitochondrial efficiency, and brain performance. Now, let me explain why the timing before bed matters for blueberries specifically. Your brain consolidates memories during sleep, particularly during the REM phases and slow-wave sleep cycles that occur in the early hours of the night. The elevation in BDNF that anthocyanins produce doesn't happen instantaneously. Research shows that cerebral blood flow increases measurably after consumption of flavanol-rich foods, with peak effects occurring roughly 2 hours after ingestion. When you eat blueberries approximately 90 minutes to 2 hours before sleep, you're creating a peak in BDNF activity and cerebral blood flow that coincides precisely with the brain's most active memory consolidation phase. Here's the practical protocol. Aim for roughly half a cup to a full cup of fresh or frozen blueberries in the evening. Frozen blueberries are equally effective and in some studies slightly higher in antioxidant content because they're picked and frozen at peak ripeness. You can eat them plain, mix them into a small serving of plain Greek yogurt for the added benefit of tryptophan and probiotic bacteria, or blend them into a small smoothie with some spinach and almond milk. Avoid sweetened blueberry products, blueberry jams, or anything with added sugar because the glucose spike will counteract the neuroprotective benefits by elevating cortisol and disrupting sleep architecture. The goal is the pure anthocyanin load, not the sugar load. The third fruit is one that surprises people. It doesn't get the same press as blueberries or the exotic reputation of pomegranate. It's the kiwi fruit. And what kiwi does for your brain starts with sleep, but the downstream effects on cognitive repair are far more profound than most people appreciate. Here's the fundamental insight. Your brain cannot repair itself effectively without deep, high-quality sleep. This is not a soft wellness statement. This is hard neuroscience. The glymphatic system, your brain's waste clearance network, operates almost exclusively during slow-wave sleep. When you don't reach deep sleep or when you cycle through it too briefly, your brain accumulates amyloid beta plaques and tau protein tangles, the very compounds that define Alzheimer's disease at an accelerated rate. Sleep is literally the janitor shift for your brain. And if the janitor doesn't show up, the garbage accumulates. Now, here's what most people over 60 are experiencing. After 60, melatonin production drops significantly. By age 70, your melatonin levels can be less than half of what they were in your 30s. This explains why so many older adults struggle to fall asleep, stay asleep, or feel genuinely rested in the morning. And here's what's really going on inside your body when melatonin declines. You don't just sleep less deeply, you enter slow-wave sleep less efficiently, you spend less time in the phases where memory consolidation and glymphatic clearance happen and your brain's overnight repair cycle becomes truncated. This is where kiwi fruit steps in with genuinely remarkable specificity. Kiwi fruit contains naturally occurring melatonin, approximately 24 micrograms per gram, as well as measurable concentrations of serotonin, which serves as melatonin's direct biochemical precursor. Additionally, kiwi is rich in tryptophan, phenylalanine, and glutamic acid, the amino acid precursors to the brain's key neurochemicals, including dopamine, serotonin, and GABA. This is not just a fruit. This is, in effect, a neurochemical toolkit delivered in a convenient, delicious package. A study published in Frontiers in Nutrition in 2023 demonstrated that consuming kiwi fruit with the evening meal significantly increased urinary concentrations of both the serotonin metabolite, 5-HIAA, and the melatonin metabolite, 6-sulfathoxymelatonin, compared to a control group. Both the fresh and freeze-dried kiwi fruit groups showed measurable improvements in mood, morning alertness, and reduced reduce sleep disturbance. The mechanism researchers identified was that kiwi's unique combination of serotonin precursors and the enzyme actinidin, which enhances the absorption of amino acids in the gut, creates an earlier and more sustained peak of neurochemical precursors in the bloodstream, which the brain then converts into melatonin and GABA, both of which are critical for initiating and maintaining deep sleep. A separate trial found that elite athletes who consumed 2 medium-sized kiwi fruit 1 hour before bed experienced significant improvements in sleep quality and post-sleep recovery across multiple dimensions. And importantly, a landmark study in the Asia-Pacific Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that adults who ate 2 kiwis 1 hour before bedtime regularly experienced increased time spent in slow-wave deep sleep, the exact stage where the brain's glymphatic system is most active, where memory consolidation is happening, and where brain cell repair is occurring at its highest rate. Think about what this means as a chain reaction. You eat kiwi before bed, your serotonin levels rise, serotonin converts to melatonin. Melatonin signals your circadian system to initiate deep sleep. Deep sleep activates the glymphatic system. The glymphatic system clears amyloid plaques and inflammatory debris. Simultaneously, your hippocampus consolidates the day's memories, transferring them to long-term storage. You wake up sharper, clearer, and with a brain that has genuinely been cleaned and reset overnight. This is not a metaphor. This is the literal physiology of what eating the right food at the right time can do for your aging brain. The practical protocol here is beautifully simple. Eat 2 medium green kiwi fruit, leave the skin on if you can tolerate it, as the skin contains 3 times the fiber and additional polyphenols approximately 1 hour before bed. If the texture of the skin bothers you, you can blend the whole kiwi into a small smoothie. Pair it, if you like, with a few tart cherries or a small glass of tart cherry juice, which we'll discuss in a moment for a synergistic effect on melatonin and sleep quality. Now, I want to talk about how these 3 fruits work together as a system, because functional medicine is never about isolated interventions. It's about understanding how the body operates as an interconnected whole and using that understanding to create compounding benefits. Here's what's really going on inside your body when you combine these 3 fruits strategically in the 2 hours before sleep. The kiwi fruit initiates the serotonin-melatonin cascade, deepening your sleep architecture. The blueberries deliver anthocyanins that have crossed the blood-brain barrier and are elevating BDNF levels precisely as your brain enters its consolidation phase. And the pomegranate is feeding your gut bacteria the L-glutathione they need to produce urolithin A overnight, the compound that is simultaneously stimulating mitophagy in your brain cells, clearing out damaged mitochondria, and reducing neuroinflammation at the cellular level. 3 fruits, 3 distinct but complementary mechanisms, all operating in synchrony with your body's natural overnight repair cycle. And here is why this matters so profoundly after 60. Before 60, your body has enough compensatory mechanisms to partially buffer against suboptimal nutrition. But after 60, those buffers are thinner. BDNF is lower, lymphatic efficiency is reduced, gut microbiome diversity has declined, melatonin production has dropped. The margin for error narrows. And this is exactly when strategic, precisely timed nutritional intervention becomes not optional but essential. I also want to address a question that comes up frequently: is fruit before bed safe for blood sugar? The answer depends on the type of fruit and how you eat it. The 3 fruits we've discussed today, blueberries, pomegranate, and kiwi fruit, all have relatively low to moderate glycemic loads, particularly in the portions we've recommended. Blueberries have a glycemic index of around 53. Kiwi fruit comes in at around 50. Pomegranate seeds are roughly 18 on the glycemic scale. These are not the fruits that will spike your insulin at night. However, if you are diabetic or highly insulin resistant, eating them alongside a small amount of protein or healthy fat Greek yogurt, a handful of walnuts, a tablespoon of almond butter will blunt any glucose response and keep your insulin stable through the night, which is itself neuroprotective. Now, there's one additional honorable mention I want to give, and that's tart cherries. Tart cherries, particularly Montmorency cherries, contain both melatonin and anthocyanins, and a 2025 systematic review in Food Science and Nutrition found that tart cherry consumption was associated with significant improvements in sleep duration and efficiency, as well as reductions in inflammatory markers, including CRP and IL-6. A preclinical study published in a peer-reviewed journal found that tart cherry anthocyanins actually accumulated in the brain tissue of aged rats, where they reduced hippocampal inflammation and improved working memory. While tart cherries didn't make the top 3 tonight because of their slightly more limited accessibility in fresh form, tart cherry juice is something I would encourage you to consider adding to your evening routine alongside or in rotation with the 3 primary fruits we've discussed. Before we move to the conclusion, I want to pause and ask you something. This content takes significant research and preparation. If this video has given you something you didn't have before, a new understanding of your brain, a specific tool you can use tonight, I want to connect with our community right now. If you're watching this and you've made it this far, you are exactly the kind of health-conscious person this channel was built for. Where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city and country in the comments. We have viewers from dozens of countries, and this community is one of the most engaged and curious audiences on the platform. Your comments, your questions, your stories, they shape the content we make. So hit subscribe if you haven't already, and let's keep building this together. Let me bring everything together now, because everything we've covered tonight comes down to one foundational idea. Your brain is not passively aging. It is actively either repairing or declining every single night based on the chemical environment you create before you go to sleep. And you have far more control over that environment than you've probably been told. After 60, the three most critical things your brain needs overnight are a clean environment achieved through optimal glymphatic function during deep sleep, a supply of neurotrophic growth factors like BDNF to maintain and rebuild neural connections, and efficient mitophagy to clear damaged mitochondria and reduce neuroinflammation. Tonight, we've walked through three fruits that directly and specifically address each of those needs. Blueberries deliver anthocyanins that cross the blood-brain barrier, elevate BDNF, reduce neuroinflammation, and improve the brain's ability to consolidate memories during sleep. Pomegranate provides the elagitannins that your gut bacteria convert to urolithin, one of the most potent natural mitophagy activators discovered by modern neuroscience, shown in multiple studies to reduce Alzheimer's-related cognitive symptoms and restore brain cell function at the mitochondrial level. And kiwi fruit provides the serotonin precursors, natural melatonin, and amino acid toolkit that your brain needs to initiate deep restorative sleep, the biological foundation without which none of the other repair processes can happen effectively. These are not vague wellness claims. These are mechanisms grounded in studies published in neurology, Alzheimer's and dementia, frontiers in aging neuroscience, and frontiers in psychology. Yispali this B in yo B. These are compounds that researchers at the University of Copenhagen, Duke University, and Murdoch University are actively investigating for their roles in preventing and even treating neurodegenerative disease. The science is clear. The window is real. The fruits are accessible. So here's your challenge for tonight. Pick one of the three fruits we discussed, just one. Eat it approximately 1 hour before bed and do it consistently for 2 weeks. Track how your sleep changes. Track how your mental clarity feels in the morning. Track whether the brain fog that you may have accepted as normal starts to lift because the evidence suggests it will. Your brain is not done repairing itself. It is waiting for the right signals. Tonight, you know what some of those signals are. If this video added real value to your understanding of brain health and aging, please do two things. Hit the like button. It tells our algorithm that this content is worth sharing, and it helps us reach the people who need it most. And subscribe to BioBites, where we continue breaking down the most important science in metabolic health, hormonal function, and longevity into strategies you can actually use. Your brain is one of your most precious assets. Let's protect it together, one evidence-based decision at a time.